Hi, this is Brett Ingram, award-winning entrepreneur and digital marketer. And today I want to share with you 6 digital business startup mistakes and how to avoid them. Who doesn't love the idea of a digital business? You can work from home, you can set your own hours, you can work in your pajamas, you can kick back on the couch, you can set your own schedule, you can make money, you can, be your own boss, you don't need to answer to anybody. All the things that we associate with entrepreneurship and business are accentuated and even bigger and better in the idea of a digital business. Because if we think about starting sort of an old school brick and mortar business where we're going to have an office or we're going to have a storefront or something like that, we know that we need a lot of capital. We need a lot of money up front. We need inventory. We need employees. With a digital business, we know that we can do all these things without any of that. You can literally start a digital business with, $100 or a couple $100 basically. You can start it in your own spare time at home. You also don't need to give up your career or your job to go in full time. You can sort of test the waters, get it started, build it, and then transition, which by the way is exactly what I did. And so who doesn't love the idea of a digital business? It's just awesome in so many ways. If we have any kind of entrepreneurship in our blood, it's something that we're going to be interested in pursuing. And then if we look and we see things online about it, it makes it look so easy that of course people are going to want to get into it. So it is no surprise at all that lots of people are trying to start online businesses. And they're trying to start them in various different venues and various different places and formats and business models and all that other kinds of stuff. Because they want to be able to be their own boss, right? We want to be able to set our own hours. We want to be able to get up when we want, sleep in when we want, work in our jeans or our pajamas or whatever. We don't want to have to answer to anybody. We want to be able to have the flexibility in our own schedule so we can do the things we want to do when we want to do. Maybe we want to work at night. Maybe we want to work on the weekend and take the weekdays off. Maybe we have kids, sports things that we want to go to or whatever. All of those things are reasons, whatever we want to do with our own time, and just having control and dominion over it. And also, for sake of security, the idea of if you're working for somebody else, you never know if there are going to be layoffs. Nowadays we're seeing headlines every day about new tech layoffs and things like this. And so if we're working for another company, we always have to worry about the idea that maybe we could be laid off no matter how successful we are in our job. So it's understandable that there are a lot of people that want to get into it, and the reasons for it are obviously really clear. The sad part about it is that unfortunately, many who start out to start a digital business never make it work because for one reason or another, it just doesn't, things don't connect and they're not able to be successful. And what I've seen over my, tenure as a digital marketer and a digital entrepreneur is that it's often due to one or more common mistakes. Now, there are a lot of different things that can cause you to, increase your success or work against you to prevent you from succeeding, for sure. But there are a number of things that are very common that are repeated over and over again, and they're the same mistakes that people are making. So I want to help you avoid those. So I'm going to share those with you now, and I'm going to share with you what people who've made it work do instead. So, I've owned a digital business and I've been running it full time for almost 17 years. So I've been in the game a long time. When I started out, I started part-time, and I did that because I was already working full time. I was going to graduate school. I already had a family at home, and I already had the mortgage and car payments and stuff like that. I wasn't a kid living in my parents' basement where I could tinker with stuff and figure things out and see if I could, make some money online. I already had all these financial responsibilities and life responsibilities, so I didn't have the luxury to just say, I'm going to quit my job and then I'm just going to do this. What I had to do was sort of build it up gradually, and it was very frustrating because I didn't have a lot of time in any given day. But I was able to do it little by little, And that's one of the benefits of a digital business. You don't have to go all in order to make it work. Now, that said, it's super important, and this is the reason I bring this up. It's super important to understand that while I was doing it part-time, I wasn't doing it casually. There's a difference, right? I was fully committed to it, and I wished I could have worked on it a lot more, and I would have poured myself into it if I could. I just didn't physically have the time. It wasn't that I was off watching sports or eating chips on the couch and it just didn't feel like doing it, so I was doing an hour here, hour there, and then, whoa, look, I succeeded. I don't know anybody who's had that scenario. Anybody who's done it and been successful at it has put enough into it that they've deserved the success that they've got. And so it's like a lot of other things in life, it's going to be, you're going to get out what you put in. That said, I've seen a lot of people enter the industry over 17 years. And I've seen lots of people leave. Some were there before I got there and are gone. Some came after I was there and then are gone. And, some make it work long term. Now, obviously, some people leave for other reasons. It's not that they failed. It's that they wanted to do something else or they had another opportunity or whatever. But a number of people try it and then it just doesn't work. And so they end up moving back to a regular job, or they end up moving back to some other kind of business or whatever else. And so here are the mistakes that I see people make that knock them out. And I'm also going to share with you what the people who make it work do differently in relation to each of those mistakes. So the first mistake that I see people make is they chase money. They get the idea that it looks like it's the gold rush, right? You can just put in your flag and just start digging and money's going to come spitting out of your computer and all your dreams are going to come true. It couldn't be further from the truth. It never was true. It's just another like mechanism for running a business, right? You still have to have a product. You still have to have a service. You still have to market it. You still have to promote it. So as opposed to a traditional business where you would have had to take out ads in a magazine or TV or direct mail or whatever else you were going to use, now you can use the internet. So it's fast, it's easier, in some cases a lot cheaper. But the process of selling, the process of building a business is not really any different. We don't need as much overhead. We don't need as office space and employees as much. But we still have to do something where we're providing value for customers and in return getting paid for that. And so when people chase money, they see one niche or they see something that clues them into the idea that, oh, there's money to be made here. And so they want to jump into it thinking if I throw together an ebook or whatever, or a course, I can just churn money out of my computer. But the reality of it is what happens is they get involved and what they realize is there's actually a lot more work involved than they thought. And because they're just chasing the money, they end up finding that it doesn't really work. There are other competitors that are already doing what they're doing that are better at it. It's more work than they really thought. The money isn't as easy or as fast. And so ultimately, that's a flawed way to get into digital marketing. If you want to get into it because you see all the benefits, then that's great. But if what you're choosing to do to start a digital business is see where you can make the most money to do it, that's not going to work. That's not a strategy that makes a lot of sense, and it isn't one that endures. It knocks a lot of people out of the game. What the people who have made it do is they start with a passion. They fall in love with the idea of digital marketing and the idea that they can do all this stuff fast and easy and cheap and all that other stuff. But what they do is they say, what am I passionate about? Where's my expertise? Where can I create something that's going to benefit other people? And then build a digital business around that. So instead of chasing the money, they start with a passion and then they build the business around that passion. And that allows them to be successful because they're committed to it. They love it. They like what they do regardless of the money. And so yes, they want to make money and yes, they want to build a digital business, but they're passionate about the subject regardless. And so that comes through. And it also gives them the fuel they need to overcome obstacles and break through roadblocks, which invariably are going to hit us all when we start and run a digital business. So that's one big mistake right from the get-go when they're trying to get into it. The second mistake that I see, and this is connected in some ways, but not always, is to jump from idea to idea. So somebody gets into digital marketing, starting a digital business, and they say, you know what, I'm going to create a course. I'm going to create a course on, how to build an organic garden. So they start to build a course on organic gardening, and maybe they get, through it, or maybe they don't. Maybe halfway through, it's kind of a lot of work. I saw this thing over here where I could just set up an e-com store, and resell, drop ship a bunch of products. So I'm going to go do that instead because it seems easier. And so they jump from idea to idea, and ultimately they're not successful in any of them because they aren't doing enough to make any of the ideas work. They assume that it's the idea that is the thing that is too difficult or not working, and not their own execution of that idea. And so, look, I'm going to tell you right up front, if you want to build a course on organic gardening, you could make money with that. You could build a business around that. If you want to build an e-com store that drop ships products, you can make money with that. You can build a business with that. But you can also fail at both because it isn't the idea itself in most cases, right? So if they're jumping from one idea to the next, they're sort of glancing over and taking a look at each of the things. And what happens is it's the bright, shiny object syndrome. They start with something, they get a good idea, they got a lot of passion, they start to put a little bit of work into it, and they realize, you know what, this is a lot of work, or they get to the point where they start to sell it and it isn't selling right away. That idea doesn't work, I gotta move to the next idea. Instead of trying to figure out what it is to make it work. And so the solution, what people that make it work do, is they choose the idea that they're going to run with, they commit to it, and they focus on it to make it work. So if they're going to build a course on organic gardening, and first of all, they're going to put in the work to make it good. They're going to do the work and create it. So that said, people who don't even finish it, there's no chance of making any money or building a business. But the people that do it the right way will complete it. But they'll also recognize that if then they go to market with this and they try to sell it and it isn't selling, instead of giving up and jumping to another idea, they analyze it. They look at it and they say, well, wait a minute. All right, I'm passionate about this. I love this. This is what I want to do. And I know that there's a market for this. So I need to find out why this isn't selling. Do I have bad marketing? Is my headline wrong? Is there something within the course that isn't working? And they work through it until they find the solution. So they're committed to it. They aren't just kicking the tires or hoping that something will grab them a quick buck. And so by choosing what they're going to do, by committing to it and focusing on it, it helps them become more successful, far more successful than jumping from idea to idea. There's nothing wrong with starting somewhere and pivoting later. I've done that. I've changed and modified my business 3 or 4 times, but that's over 17 years. I didn't try something for 3 months and when it didn't work, jump to something else. But when I saw changes in the market or whatever else, or I wanted to adjust my own lifestyle and work structure, then I made changes to it to make things that made sense. But they were based on analysis, knowledge, and facts, not just based on, hey, this isn't making me a quick buck, so let me jump over to this. So that is mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 that I see people make is that they come into it expecting it to be fast and easy, right? Everything that we see is how fast and easy it is. If you look at any guides online, you look at any product sales pages, it's all about push button, fast, easy, overnight, instant, automatic, automated. And it's true in a lot of ways because things online and in the internet world are a lot faster, they're a lot easier, they're a lot more automated than anything in the offline world. That said, building a business is not fast and easy. It's faster and easier than trying to, start up our own, full-scale business where we get an office space, we hire employees, we, create this business model, we need to go get financing. We don't need to do any of that kind of stuff for this, right? We're not creating prototypes of physical products and machines and molds in the lab and all this other stuff that then we need to pitch to get investors. And so it's way, way easier in a lot of ways. But that doesn't make it fast and easy. It doesn't mean that, tonight I'm going to start my business and by, Monday morning I'm going to be rolling in dough. It doesn't really work that way. And so they come into it with the expectation that it's fast and easy. And when they realize that it's not, they give up. Or they say, you know what, I was lied to, or I misinterpreted things, or I didn't expect it to be this much work. I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. What people do that make it work is they expect work up front. They expect challenges up front, and they embrace it. They understand that this is part of business, right? So I know I'm going to need to put in the work. I knew when I started my business, this was not going to be easy. I was going to graduate school. I was working full time. I had a family and obligations at home. I knew it was going to be a slog, but I wasn't worried about how fast I could get to the results. I was worried about today, what I could put in today to get myself further ahead. Because I knew if I focused on, in 3 months, I'm only going to have to put in 20 hours. I'm not going to get that far. It would have been hard to even start. So I focused on what I could control that day, controlled that, and then I let that momentum build on itself. And so what it did was it created this excitement where even though I didn't have a lot of time, I couldn't wait to get through my work day and school day and everything so I could get back to it at night. Even though it was 10, 11 o'clock at night and I could only work for an hour or two, I was so excited about it that it didn't matter because I was going to go and do it. So people who make it work, they know there are going to be challenges. They expect it up front. They don't feel like a victim when that happens, and they don't give up. They embrace all of that. And here's the thing, and it's important to keep this in mind. It's worth it, right? If you're passionate about it, it's worth it. Because doing it right and doing it once can change your life forever. So whatever the struggles are for 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 6 years, the result can be that it changes your life forever. And that is really powerful and important to keep in mind when we're trying to start a digital business. Mistake number 4 I see people make is they resist or ignore market changes. So if they start to get a little bit off the launch pad and things start to roll a little bit, they sort of put their head in the sand and they go, well, this is what I'm doing, this is working, and I'm just going to do this. And so when they see market changes coming, or economic shifts or whatever, technological shifts or whatever, which by the way in digital marketing are constant, and they resist it, what ends up happening is sometimes disruptive technology takes them over and knocks them out. Or worse, and this is more common, instead of resisting it, they just ignore it. So they're not aware of any kind of market changes or technological shifts that are going on, so they keep doing what they're doing. If I think back to the Wild West days of SEO and search engine optimization, there were people who were obsessed with backlinks because when they realized that Google loved backlinks, all they were doing was building these link farms that would create tons of backlinks. And they did the same thing during the keyword stuffing period. And so there were marketers that were doing this, and that's all they were doing day in and day out. And what happened was when Google realized people were cheating the system, they switched the algorithm, and literally overnight, like a light switch, the traffic stopped all of their sites. So for people like that, if they weren't aware of the fact that Google is going to make adaptations. So if this is working today, fine, I'll run with it. But I also have to be thinking about tomorrow. Gas companies nowadays are aware that electric cars are starting to take over. Any gas company that's out there that's sitting there going, we're doubling down on gas, they're foolish because they're going to be out of business in a couple of decades, right? So the fact is, they're adjusting that because they're seeing the market changes and adjusting to that. So the solution, the people who survive, is that they and make it work is they adapt and survive. So they look for market trends, they look for shifts, they pay attention to what's going on in the grander scheme. And if they see things that are going to impact their business, they make adjustments. Sometimes proactively in advance, that's the best, but sometimes it hits you over the head first, but then you just need to be quick to adjust. During COVID, There are a lot of restaurants in town. Some of them went out of business because they didn't adjust. They couldn't have clientele come into the restaurants anymore. They couldn't serve alcohol. They couldn't do all these things. Some actually thrived, and not only survived, but thrived because they pivoted so quickly. They went to a takeout business model. They streamlined their costs and ultimately were more successful because of it. So then when COVID ended, or it's still going, but the big part of it ended and they could get back to normal restaurant, their profits went up even more. And so that was a really, really important element. They were able to adapt and adjust. So they survived. The fifth mistake that I see is lack of self-discipline. So we are our own boss. And if we're used to working in a company where we have to go into the office or we have reports we have to file or they can monitor our online activity, we're accountable to somebody. So it's very easy to have self-discipline and do our work because we're going to be in trouble if we don't. When we own our own business, when we're our own boss, no one's looking over our shoulder. We have bills to pay, so that should be enough of an incentive. But beyond that, there's no one looking over our shoulder. I can, sleep in until noon every day if I want because there's nobody telling me what to do. But the fact is, if I do that or if I play video games instead of working, then my business fails. And so lack of self-discipline, we see this even with college kids, right? College kids go to college. There's not somebody there telling them, their parents aren't on them to do their homework. They drop out, they fail out because they don't have the self-discipline. They're out at a party every single night. We have to pick and choose the flexibility in our schedule and make sure we get the work in anyway. And so what people who make it work do is they schedule themselves so they know the times that they're going to be working and they take it seriously. They don't kick the can down the road figuring, I'll just do it later. They schedule their time. They know on each given day I've got to put in this many hours, and they take it very seriously. They have downtime and they have flexibility and can do what they want, but they also get the work done. And then mistake number 6 is short-term thinking and lack of fortitude. This is another big mistake that I see. People are so focused on the here and now, and when there are fluctuations in business, right, and there are, it's like riding a roller coaster. Sometimes days are amazing, we're over the moon. The next day we're in the depths of despair, it looks like the sky is falling. Our services get shut down, sales aren't coming in, all these things go wrong. And part of being an entrepreneur and a business owner is being able to fight fires. It's being able to have the fortitude to be able to go through that. So if we're too short term in our thinking and we're focused on right now and, today isn't going really well, we're going to give up, right? We're going to say this isn't for me, I can't handle it. The swings are too great. And, we lack that fortitude. What people who make it work do is they have the ability to step back, take a deep breath, think longer term. Today, maybe the sales weren't good, but if I look at the trend over the last month, the sales were really good. So I have nothing to worry about. It will rebound. I just need to make sure that I keep it going. And I need to understand that I have to ride that wave. The wave is going to take me up and the wave is going to crash me down. The wave is going to take me up and it's going to crash me down. And I've got to understand that as long as when it levels out, as long as the long-term big picture is positive and growing, we're all good. So it's okay to have ups and downs. So those are 6 common mistakes that people make when starting a digital business, and how those who make it work do things differently in the face of the same issues. The takeaway here is that a digital business can be the opportunity or breakthrough we're looking for if we want to change our lives or lifestyles. But like anything else worth having in life, it's not fast or easy to achieve real success. If we start from the right state of mind and have reasonable expectations for effort and results, we can navigate the process and ultimately build a successful business.